Okay, so let's get busy with understanding all the different kind of ways you can use Facebook and all the different type of tools you can use in Facebook that are going to work best for your business. And you might be very surprised about the range of different things you can use in order to make sure your business works effectively. All right, for today's agenda, we're going to talk about building your presence on Facebook, tools to communicate with your customers, and deriving business results with Facebook. So here we can see a success story which features Iger's Proper Barbers. So they are a UK barber, and they have started to use Facebook page tools in order to get more customers and bookings. So what they have done as a result of developing their strategy on Facebook, they have 98% more bookings made with Facebook. They have saved 15 minutes on their usual booking process by allowing people to book automatically through Facebook. And it now takes 2 minutes to fill an open booking after posting the availability on Facebook on average. So I know for me, for some of my local hairdressers, if I can see that they've got a last minute deal that they're announcing on Facebook stories or Instagram stories, I'll generally just click through and check myself in for the available times. And bish bash bosh, it's all done. Nobody has to be sitting there at reception putting in the details and things like that. So the whole kind of booking process can be extremely seamless. All right, let's start building your presence on Facebook. So you have a thing called page posts. So that's the average kind of typical post that you want to see in the newsfeed. So from a business perspective, it's got to be engaging. It's got to get people to act and take some kind of action, which will allow them to come further down the sales funnel. So the engaging part is the image, which obviously you need to think about in terms of your brand. The idea is if you're using kind of blues and grays and greens, then automatically, even before they read some of the words, people need to know that this is the colors and the features to do with this particular company. Think about, for example, prêt-à-manger. If you see a kind of prêt-à-manger type of image coming up in your newsfeed, you'll know instinctively that it's a prêt-à-manger thing, just because your familiarity with the kinds of reds and the silvers and the brick effects and things like that go on even before you've even looked at a logo or read any of the captions as well. So thinking carefully about the branding is very, very important in order to make people identify and know who you are, like what you do, and then therefore trust that you are what you say you are and start moving down the sales funnel accordingly. So here even the caption has to be engaging. Spring is coming, again an emotional pull, stay en vogue with the new inventory. So they're trying to make sure that you're feeling a little bit out of place, maybe a little bit outdated. I'm sure everybody's going to feel outdated when they come out of Corona. So it will be a very appealing way to say, want to stay up to date with the latest fashions and get rid of the cloggy jeans and the crappy old jumpers you've been living in for the last couple of years with the lockdown. Okay, so best practices to create engaging posts. Right, you need to use high quality creatives. Now, we're not saying you necessarily need to go out and hire, a photographer, videographer, and then spend a fortune doing that. It can all be done using your mobile phone and some very, very easy to use design software. And I have taught people how to use things like PicMonkey and Canva. And everybody has suddenly discovered a new love for being able to design things and turn their photographs even into fantastic looking professional images. However, I will also say that there is quite a large difference between bringing in a professional and then doing it yourself. So even though you can still become a fantastic person for putting great content out there, bringing in the professionals will always bring a competitive edge to how it looks. And then make posts actionable. Every single post you put out there, you don't just announce it, declare it, report it as if you're some kind of journalist. No, you got to tell people what you want them to do. Every single post, every single blog post, every single podcast, every single YouTube, every single Facebook post has to have some kind of CTA, call to action, on every post. What do you want them to do? I mean, if it's a post that's going out to people who've never come across you before, you're not going to go and tell them, go and buy my stuff, because they don't know you yet. They don't like you yet, and they don't trust you yet. So you're never going to get any sale, no matter how cheap it is. Even if it's too cheap, being too cheap is actually going to put people off from actually purchasing. Say, for example, I put up on my business, I've got a fancy luxury company that I'm just setting up, and I'm selling pure cashmere scarves for 12 quid. Are you going to buy it? Or are you going to think, what's dodgy about that? That's a bit dodgy. What's going on there? So being too cheap is not necessarily going to get people to buy it. What's going to help them to buy it is that they know, like, and trust you. And that means reaching out to them several times through a number of means. Classic marketing and direct marketing principles are the same. Nobody's going to take action unless they've come across you 7 different times. That can be in the newsfeed, in the stories, in the emails, on a website, or somebody talked about you on a newspaper or on a podcast. If they've come across you about 7 different times, they like what they hear, then guess what? If you phone them up, or you reach out to them, or whatever, email them, then they're definitely going to be at least interested in some way. So next point is you need to know your audience and engage with them. That's why we spend so much time on the buyer persona, in order to make sure we understand exactly what's going to make them tick, what's going to make them take action. Keep posts simple but attractive. So that's simple enough. And then pin the significant posts, as I was just showing you with the other posts there. And then like and respond to comments. This is absolutely vital. So if you say to yourself, okay, I'm posting every day, or I'm posting twice a week, then try and let people know that these are the times that you're posting, and that those are the times where you're actually going to be active. Because I on the one hand, it's going to be easy for you to schedule all the posts from now to the next 3 months and the next 6 months. And so therefore you're going to be free. However, it's highly, highly recommended for you to jump in there and actually be a resource and build a community. And you can't do that just by posting and ghosting, or pumping and dumping, as some people call it. So you have to be in there and liking and commenting and responding to what people are saying on the newsfeed. Why? Because again, it tells the algorithms that this is an active and engaging post. And what happens within 24 hours of that post landing on your newsfeed will tell the algorithms whether this is a post of value or not. If there is no engagement, if there's no impact whatsoever from either your fans or people who've never come across you before, and you're not even going in there and liking and responding, or trying to engender some kind of communications with people who are on the newsfeed, well, guess what? The algorithms are going to say, well, this is a bit of a dead duck. We're not going to make sure that we're not going to let that damage our newsfeed, and we're going to minimize the impact that that post has. So therefore, if you go in there liking and responding and building a community around your brand as soon as that post drops, either 20 minutes before or 20 minutes after, or around about the same time, then you are going to see a massive increase in the algorithms, and therefore the visibility of that post. So as you can begin to see, it's a whole different can of worms, whole different kettle of fish to what every normal person thinks Facebook is all about. When you do it as a business, you've got to think carefully about the amount of time you spend on anything, amount of resources you spend on it, and think whether it's going to be useful for your time to be putting so much effort into creating lots and lots of posts, or is it going to be more beneficial to say, okay, let's do twice a week, make sure we're super active when those posts launch, and make sure there are ads around them as well so that it goes to the target people. Simple, so it doesn't have to be so time consuming, labor intensive, and ultimately super expensive, because all of that time and labor needs to be paid for as a business. Okay, let's crack on into Facebook stories. So Facebook stories is basically where you can see lots of information coming up in short form. For images, it lasts generally about 5 seconds, and for videos, it lasts for 15 seconds, and it disappears within 24 hours. So what on earth would anybody want to do that for, you might ask? Well, the reason is because it appears at the top of your news feed, first of all, so people can often just spend their time going through what's happening on the Facebook stories of the various people that they know, like, and follow, as opposed to them never ever going into your news feed, for example. So most people are very unlikely to go into your news feed deliberately as a journey, unless they are seriously thinking about purchasing from you, for example, or if they're coming across you for the first time. When they come across you for the first time, they will go and check you out on the news feed, check out what you're doing, check out what's happening in the stories, and then form a perspective and take a view and make a judgment about what type of company you are as well. So it's always good practice, even if you're going to be doing only 2 posts a week, for example, to always have like 1 or 2 stories going on in the background as well. And these are 24 hours, day in the life, behind the scenes kind of activity. So the one question often I get is how to create Facebook stories. So here is how we do it. First of all, when you are on your desktop, you can click on the little plus icon next to your profile picture, and then up will pop create story possibility, and then you can put in all your information and say you're going to put it into your page story and then share now. Alternatively, you can do it on your mobile phone, which is a lot easier than doing it on your desktop. So here you can see the process of putting it all together, and then up it goes. So the best practice for creating engaging stories is to play around with all the fun elements of the stories, which is like the stickers and the labels, putting some text in there, and you can even use the location settings and the temperature settings, and all kinds of emojis which will endear you. People ask often, what is the point of emojis? Emojis, just like the words that I was pointing to earlier, they connote an emotion. They are literally emotional icons. So they're trying to convey an emotion without actually having to think about using words behind it. So it adds the emphasis on the feelings around this image rather than just the image itself. So the best principle is to get people's attention always. Grab their attention. Think about some kind of hook that's going to make them engaged. Use text in your stories as well to pull them in further. And keep your stories short and sweet. And then always think about sharing fun and spontaneous content. Say, for example, if you are a fabric designer or a craft kit maker, then obviously, every so often you are talking on your stories about what's happening with your business, with the crafts industry. You can be also, though, talking about, the walk in the morning, or the fantastic steam bath, or conversations with suppliers and some of your favorite suppliers. So you can have all kinds of fun talking about the kind of day in the life, behind the scenes type of activity. And that's what people are looking at. They don't want to look at stories to be sold more. They don't want to be told what to do necessarily, but they want to have a glimpse of what's happening in your life, in the business, in the day of the life of this business. So if you think about L'Oreal stories, if L'Oreal was to do stories, then you might see a couple of images around some of the models that they're using, some of the photo shoots, or maybe what's happening in the management suite and some of the board meetings that are happening. So we want that kind of behind the scenes feeling for your Facebook business stories, and that applies with whether you're a law firm or a bank as well. We want to get behind the scenes so we can emotionally build that relationship with that company so that we can trust them more. So use elements like polls, stickers, and emojis as I was describing, and try using things like Boomerang. Boomerang is a tool that you can use on your mobile phone, where rather than have the image standing straight, you can have the image kind of bouncing back and forth. It seems a bit silly for some brands. It would be a bit too frivolous, definitely. But for other brands who are trying to be a lot more convivial, friendly, hip and trendy, then a boomerang is not going to go awry, that's for sure. So here's an idea for trying your first Facebook story. So make a post or a story from your mobile device. Think about your audience, of course. Always go back to your buyer persona. What is she or he thinking about, and what are they doing at this particular moment in time? Select an image from your camera roll or take a photo. Then try to ask a question. Asking a question is an absolute dead giveaway for getting that engagement that you need. Then use contrasting colors, stickers, and other features, but stay simple. So see with this particular image here, you can see that they've grabbed the temperature tool, and you can see exactly what kind of temperature it is, and they're feeling happy next to the flower. One of the other things I want to point out to you, though, is that, face shots or body shots are going to have way more impact than just having product shots. If they were selling flowers, for example, and they just have flowers, always just flowers in their content, you're not really bringing out the story. If you have somebody holding the flowers or somebody handing over the flowers, those kinds of much more storytelling images are going to have a lot more impact than just product shots. And of course, trying to make it as natural and authentic as possible, so it doesn't look like you've faked a day in the life, but you've actually genuinely had a day in the life kind of experience. All right, so that's your Facebook stories. Now let's go to Facebook shops, because there are shops on Facebook, and in order to set up a shop, there's a number of things you need to be able to do first. First of all, you can add as many products as you want. There are no limits. If you have 20,000 items in your shop, you can post them all onto your Facebook shop, and you can see exactly what the price is on the image and click through and make the purchase there and then without even having to go through. Customize your product inventory as well, so you can put the descriptions in on the spreadsheet so that it all automatically goes up onto your Facebook feed from your spreadsheet as well. So you need to dive in there and start playing around so you can understand how that coordination happens between the spreadsheet and your Facebook shop. But Facebook is very good at actually showing you how to do these things and then actually talk you through, right, now you have to do this, now you have to do this. So it's quite straightforward when you're going through the process of setting up a shop. So the main thing is you want to be able to communicate with customers and then get insights into who are putting the products into the basket but not necessarily purchasing, and what kind of people are they, so you can get more insights into those people and then target more and more ads and information to them. And then of course you can distribute your products broadly as well. So how do you create a shop on Facebook, you ask? Well, here it is. So in order to set up a shop, you can click on the shop icon on the left hand side of your Facebook feed, and then you'll be able to set it up, and then you can showcase your products, make it easy to buy from you, and get paid. So you can click through on the get started. But by the way, you will not see that shop icon on the left hand side of your Facebook page unless you have already set yourself up in your category. The initial settings of Facebook as a retail type of outlet. So if you don't have some kind of retail description, you won't have that shop button on the left hand side of your newsfeed. All right. So you click on the Get Started, and then off you go to the next page. Fill in the information for the next page where you determine what's your country, your address, your currency, all that type of thing. Where do you do business? What do you want to sell? How do you want to get paid? What's your birth date, or what's the banking details? And set your preferences for shipping and the customer contact center, and off you go. So obviously it takes a bit longer than that. It's not just about filling in that form. You still have to upload all the information, the images, the product descriptions, the prices. So it does take a bit of time to set it all up. But once it's up, Bob's your uncle. You're good to go and actually make some purchases using Facebook without even having to go and set up an e-commerce store on your website. How amazing is that? All right, we'll take a break. I'll come back in a second.